Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case back again, where we're focusing in on the continuation of emotional responses, which has clouded judgment and the focus on the case at hand. Critical thinking has been lost and thrown out the window. And with credit to Robbie Taylor and their post, I'm going to be reading and assessing what's been added on from the most common replies by the others. So I'll be reacting and adding on with points of views. And we also need to highlight the theme of, at times, the customer isn't always right. And that there can already be set in stone a form of making one's own mind up and then applying it onwards, in which it denies themselves of learning and much more, because they're not willing to change and they're going through a tunnel vision mindset. You may notice that yourself through different cases and online and through Facebook. So feel free to stick around today to learn more about that, and welcome to those that are watching the live premiere right now. Feel free to share your thoughts, engage with the chat on the right side of the screen there where the live chat is. Been busy doing some very deep videos in recent time on other topics and themes in general. If you are interested in any of that and the psychology behind it, and you've missed out, don't worry, the full playlist is available. Top right corner where the eye symbol is up there. If you click on the eye symbol, you'll get the drop down box with the psychology playlist, and I'll also attach separately the Noah Presgrove playlist. At any point or time, if you'd like to share your additional comments, questions or answers to today's discussions, feel free to drop them down below under the video, as that will help with spreading awareness. And if you do want to support my channel in different ways and in more practical ways, there is a PayPal link in the comment section pinned message. With that being said, the order of how we'll do things, let's start off with the Facebook post, read it, and then I'll add on with my reaction. This post can be found on the case discussion page about a week ago or now or so, I think. First of all, emotional reasoning and how it hurts Noah's case. Zoom in just a little bit. Not everything that feels true is actually true. That's called emotional reasoning. Below are perfect examples of what emotional reasoning can look like when feelings and assumptions get treated as facts. First, the fake account routine. It's almost predictable at this point. The second someone disagrees, suddenly they're a fake account. Not wrong, not mistaken, just fake. Convenient. It's a great way to avoid actually discussing what's being said. If you can't argue the facts, just pretend the person isn't real. Problem solved. Okay, so I will add on with my thoughts in regard to this. Anyone watching in the live chat, you can let me know your thoughts. I mean, have you seen fake accounts? Have you seen many? Are there a lot? In my personal experience, there's not really been many at all. You compare it to the Dylan Rounds case community, that was excessive. That was really bad, and the impersonation accounts as well. As for Noah Presgrove, yeah, there have been problematic people, but they are who they are, as in they've got like one account or, the presence of one individual entity in an area. And they might move about from group to group, and they might be two-faced and hypocritical, but they still remain who they are, and tying back to their Facebook page. But look, everyone has different encounters and experiences. Some may have come across fakes. There is that possibility. But what Robbie is getting at here is it being used as a default line when dealing with disagreements and debates, which is something different. Now for the rest. Innocent people don't act this way. Kind of a quote which has been used by others in the case, of course. Based on what exactly? Your personal handbook on how people are supposed to behave during trauma? People react differently to stress, fear, and chaos. That's reality. Deciding guilt based on behavior you don't like isn't evidence, it's guesswork. Noah is the only victim. We've seen that quote quite a bit in more recent time. That's not how real life works. Multiple people who loved Noah were affected and are living with this every day. You don't get to erase that just because it's inconvenient to your narrative. Now, there is a clear way of looking at the Noah is a victim situation. I've explained it before, but I'll bring it back in again, the diagnostics, the framework behind it. And adding on, their lies caused all of this. That's a pretty serious claim for something with zero proof attached. If there were clear, provable lies tied to something criminal, charges would already exist. Law enforcement doesn't just ignore that. Another one, in quotes, if only they would have told the truth from the beginning. This one really says it all. You've already decided what the truth is, so anything that doesn't match becomes a lie. That's not critical thinking, that's confirmation bias. In real situations, people get details wrong, timeline shifts, and memories change, especially in chaos. That's normal, not some grand cover-up. At the end of the day, using emotional reasoning, repeating something louder and more often doesn't make it true. If the goal is actually truth, it has to come from evidence, not assumptions, and not feelings about how people should act. Oh my God, Robbie Taylor doing the job for me. God, I'm not going to have a job left after this. Well, since Robbie's cleared it up very quickly and clear, more concise than I could ever possibly do, I might as well end the video right now. Thanks for watching, goodbye and good night. But now, I'll try to add on a little bit more from my perspective. But whilst we're here, let's acknowledge one other crazy situation. Don't know if anyone is aware of this or not, but once again, there have been some false claims made about me and my channel, and it's got even more ridiculous. So let's just have a very brief look at it. It's in regard to some videos or posts on Facebook in regard to me. Carolyn Pope Joy. Not exactly a pope, not exactly a saint. Carolyn is. Neither is there much joy coming from the situation because it's just complaints, whinging and whining. So we'll just refer to this person as Carolyn. Okay? Carolyn, Karen, same thing end of the day. They said, Warlike Raf said nothing that meant anything, in my opinion, except that Caleb is watching the Presgrove project. That's the only thing I got out of this. I stopped watching him for that reason. And the headlines are so deceiving. He's a joke now. So that's in regard to the video that I did on Caleb joining the Presgrove project, in which, to other people it was of high interest. But there we go. Judy, another individual. Yes, and since he went back and forth to who he sided with, the army page, light side, then the dark side, and back forth, with what I got from it now, that Ref wants to know where everyone that was paying for his subscriptions are now gone. And we don't need him to tell us Caleb is watching, because I would think they all are. Well, that's the thing. You do understand, Judy, when it comes to certain pages and groups, a person can only watch if they're a member, right? So if they're not a member, they can't be watching. So you're not going to know the real depth, as in who's present and who isn't. Some people may join, other people may be invited, but if there's no song or dance made about it, you may not know unless you physically go searching in those groups. So it's a reminder, it's a form of awareness, and the type of awareness that you, Judy, would appreciate and applaud if I just so happened to have remained on one side and remained biased. You would like that, wouldn't you? Don't even try to come up with a backup line because it's pointless. I understand how your mind works, okay? Beside that, what else do we have? And I really don't understand what those attacking everyone thinks they're accomplishing. They act like they're doing court on the sites and only they're right, but their attacks are not going to help anyone that goes to court. Their attacks, what's this about? Their attacks, who's attacking? Why is someone attacking? I mean, Judy, haven't you been attacking and making false claims? Clearly already. Exactly. And what about acts of vigilantism from certain people towards partygoers? Is that not attacking? Oh, it's only attacking when it's on one side, not the other way. So that seems a little bit one-sided as well. And then another video, which was just a simple short video on awareness of mindsets, as in looking for anomalies, I believe, within the case, what stands out the most, what sticks. And all Judy could contribute to that conversation is, Seriously? They change sides depending on who subscribes. So Judy has got to a point of a form of psychological disassociation where she can't clearly identify who the actual creator is or who's doing the talking, that Judy has to refer to they and not Raf. Interesting. Maybe Judy has got her glasses on backwards, back to front maybe. Now, let's rewind back to some more critical points before we lose brain cells after what we've read at the latter stage. Focusing in on Robbie Taylor's points and summaries, when it comes to the first point of fake account claims, why would the general public use that line, whether it be a default line, whether it be an excuse? What good does it do? What's the purpose behind it? What's the drive and motive? Well, in fairness, it'll be partially driven by an individual's own experiences in the past or just previous within the community where they have been on the receiving end of a fake account. And providing it was the truth and they found out for themselves there were fake accounts, then they may use that same mentality onwards and in the future. The concept of a fake account and being deceived and then finding out the truth can lead to trust issues. So psychologically speaking, it knocks an individual back and then they will use it as a form of self-protection in the present and future onwards when dealing with potential threats and scanning the room. If they feel like their opinion, the conversation is at risk or under attack, or they feel threatened by somebody else's presence, they may use a pre-existing time frame and concept which may or may not be fragmented and apply it in the present, even if it doesn't have genuine appliance. They're basing past experiences and bringing it to the present, thinking it's the same situation, the same results. But that's not always the case. So there is an emotional biasness, but it's driven by a psychological survival instinct to try and protect themselves from being deceived again, from being manipulated, from being taken over or corrupted. Now that might seem a little bit too deep for a situation which is just about discussions and opinions online, but you know how far people can go and the effects it can have. But this is the thing. Other times humans may exaggerate on the situation. Some who may have experienced past fake accounts, who then apply it in the present, but without critical thinking, just assuming it's all a conspiracy and there's all fake people about, going from one extreme to another, basing just a few encounters and then applying it and multiplying it on a bigger level when it's not that bad. If they're struggling or in a vulnerable way, you can't blame them or be surprised that they think a certain way. But if they are somewhat functioning, they should know better to separate the past from the present and focus more in on who's present right now and what thoughts and opinions are coming out. And when it's talks of Noah, cause of death, foul play or not, murder or accident, type of death, time of death, not everyone is going to come to the same conclusion. Not everyone is going to have the same opinion. So there will be a debate. There will be disagreements, and that's what's supposed to make things healthy as in an environment in person or digitally online. Just like a friendship or a relationship, it can't always be perfect, because if it was, it would actually make things boring. There needs to be forms of disagreement. There needs to be a little bit of a push-pull argument here and there to keep things alive, active, healthy, and maintain that balance of positive and slight negative but aggressive energy where there's life behind it, there's meaning behind it, that there is a fight behind it. You know, people may think a fight sounds bad and as a symbolism of what may have happened to Noah, even worse, but we're not talking about a fight as in a full-on fallout or brawl, but a fight between what people genuinely believe in and think, which is a good thing if they have a strong belief in something and stick with it, providing appropriate language and wording is used. And that's where it all falls off, because people don't use, in my opinion, or this is what I think. They state it as a fact. They mask it in forms of confidence, which is a false mask that needs to be moved aside. And if it's not a mask of fake wording, it's a mask of their fake perception of reality, where in their world and what they've experienced, they think it's happening all over again, even when it's not. It can lead to being hyper alert, hyper aware, and a little bit delusional, not quite there with it. And the problematic people that act out in that way, it's unfortunate to see. The humans which may be struggling in other ways, but they've got involved in a true crime case, maybe it's not the best place for them. If it's causing more issues than it's worth, maybe it's time to reevaluate. True crime, communities requires stamina, requires critical thinking, creator or not. Especially if it gets in the way of the case or it's out there in the open, it's got to be handled correctly. So when there's a debate and when there's disagreement, which is okay and it's fine, when the humans that don't think or see that their narrative, their thoughts align with other people's, they jump to the line of a fake account because they feel that they are under threat by the presence of someone else, whether they know more or less. So that could be down to a little bit of a deep-rooted insecurity within themselves, a deep-rooted level of insecurity and trust issues because of the past or just recent. They apply it in the present as a form of deflection from the possible truth. They may even fear the possibility of opposition not siding with them because it feels like betrayal. If they've experienced betrayal or betrayal trauma previous, it might flash back to them. There could be all kinds of tiny little triggers. You don't know how fragile some humans can be, even in such a setting and a format where it shouldn't be a problem, but it can be. You never know what's underneath that surface. You know, through their words and what they say, auditory or text-based, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So when a person jumps about and says fake account, it's reckless. It doesn't do much good. It doesn't do much good for anyone or the case in general. It can be quite dismissive, that attitude and tone. Some humans that jump to the idea and conclusion of that's a fake account. That's a different opinion. That's an alternative perspective, so it must be a fake account. That person says Noah had died due to an accident, fake account. They're supporting the dark side. If a person gives an alternative viewpoint, as in who could be responsible and who is genuinely innocent based on an opinion, they'll jump to the idea and say fake account, because if you think like that, if you suggest that, even with appropriate language and wording, you're supporting the bad side, you've been paid off, you've been silenced. That's why you're thinking that way. You can only think one way and only believe in one thing. And if you don't, you're a fake account. That is the mentality of a variety of humans out there, and it's not healthy whatsoever because it doesn't lead to any healthy discussion, it doesn't lead to any healthy open communication, and things are just shut off very quickly and diminished. The conversation, where it could go, shut down. It's a flight response, running away from either responsibilities, running away from conflict, running away from open discussion, wanting to seal it, as in their thoughts, their beliefs is the only way. And if the other humans can't see it that way, shut them out, pretend they're not there, or kind of negotiate through saying it's a fake account. And if you believe it's a fake account and you convince yourself hard enough, then you can drown out the excess noise and just feel like you're the only one with the only thoughts and nothing else matters. But when humans call out others as fake accounts, it's attempt of self-preservation. It's also a form of drowning out any noise which they deem as a threat upon themselves and their beliefs, which is worrying. But it also is an act to diminish the returns and diminish others and the presence of people by saying it's a fake account in hopes of maybe convincing others and the masses. Is about denying other opinions and making them not as valued and trying to shut them down and shut them out. It's like you've seen it on YouTube where discussions have come about, theories and ideas and conclusions, and then other creators have gone out of their way to paint the other creator in a bad, negative light in hopes of convincing strangers, audience members, and newer viewers that they're a bad person, so then they don't believe in them. It's like an act of destroying a person's character so that no one will believe in them. The same way on a smaller scale that people do on Facebook by saying, well, that's a fake account, so their opinions don't matter. That's it. It's done to try and diminish others and the presence in hopes of redirecting their self-control back to what they think and what they believe in as the truth and only the truth, and trying to get other people to side with that because they can't accept other perspectives, which shows insecurity, it shows trust issues, it shows the inability for additional perspective and depth. And maybe, just maybe, what they've experienced previous is what drives and motivates them to be that way in a fragmented presence. It's not a good look. Very disappointing. It's a very default weak line to use, especially when it's used rushed and done quickly without any care or consideration. The quicker it's used and the more reckless it's applied, the less weight and value it actually holds over others and the less true it probably is. I've seen fake people and fake accounts over time because of my experience and what I do, but it can become more obvious and notable based on the language, the behaviour. You can't just jump in, you have to spend a bit of time analysing and observing the patterns of potential fake accounts from when they were created, the accounts, when they were set up, what do they contribute, how do they talk, how do they sound, what do they say, what do they do, and all of that. And you get a sense of it with time through gaining it through experience. All these other humans jumping about fake accounts, they don't have the experience to that same extent. They may just jump on in because other people are jumping in with the crowd like a sheep, or they apply their own little experiences and then think it's like that for everyone in this world. That's the problem. Now, the line, innocent people don't act this way. So it's a counterpoint. The claims and the ideas in general, I guess, are Noah's friends, partygoers are innocent, they had no role in Noah's death. People within the community that believe the partygoers know of more or were directly responsible would say, well, innocent people who claim to be innocent don't act like that, with a follow-up on they should have told the truth from the start. And the other, I guess, explanation behind why they would say innocent people don't act that way, meaning innocent people wouldn't be contradicting themselves, wouldn't be having discrepancies and all of that. Well, my response is, how on earth can we come to that conclusion when it comes to interviews or talk by people, it's only been Caden Pressey and mainly Jack Newton? That's 2 people out of maybe 15 partygoers. What? How do you expect to come to a conclusion and say, everyone else, if they're innocent, why are they acting this way then, which implies the opposite? Well, how are they acting? What are they doing? What are they saying? Because how many people have actually publicly spoken, and how many people have publicly actively spoken more than once, and maybe more than one interview that's gone public, which you could compare and contrast with to check for inconsistencies and discrepancies? How many times has that happened? Silence. Exactly. You don't see Jasmine Milan doing post after post after post. She did 1 or 2 and that was it. What else do you have to compare with that to check for discrepancies? You don't. What about Logan Jernigan? What post did she make? Just 1 or 2 posts about people coming to her house in 2024 at night time, at the party house. Felt like they were being stalked, watched, felt in danger. That's mainly it. Well, that's not to do directly with the party. What else is it to do with? Not much. This is very worrying and problematic that humans have come to that mindset and conclusion of judging and reaching a conclusion based on majority of partygoers not actually publicly speaking much or doing any public interviews. But the general public seem to know it all behind the scenes, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And I would like to flip it around and say, well, if that's what humans think, regardless, that innocent people don't act that way. Well, Caden Pressey is innocent, isn't he? So you explain to me why he acts the way he does. Makes a word of his promise that he'll get the Apple data from his phone and make it public. He never followed through with it, but he promised he would, but he didn't. Is that normal behaviour? What about Caden Pressey publicly saying that his phone was never taken in by police nor analysed, so it wasn't that big of a deal or important? And yet Alicia had said it was taken in, analysed and verified. 2 people saying different things. What the hell's going on there? The situation with Caden Pressey and his timeline, not just a conflict with all the other people, but Caden's own different interviews, from Partners in True Crime to the police one. Why are there such big discrepancies there? I thought innocent people wouldn't act that way, but Caden has acted that way, a similar way as to how maybe other partygoers have acted based on what the general public point out. But those same humans online only point it out from one side and not Caden's side, because Caden is just innocent and no matter what he does, he can't do no wrong. That's a very dangerous outlook and mindset to have, that by excusing one person's behaviours and actions, but not for another. One rule for one rule for the others. That's not good. That's really not good. But that's what people have done with their mindsets and how they've applied it. It's just really vague language as well. And it's almost like reaching a point of a true conclusion that we know what's happened, we know the situation, so let's conclude by saying these humans, they say they're innocent, but the way they're acting isn't matching that. But how would you know when you've not seen them? You've not heard from them? How many interviews have you listened to? How many interviews have been made public or leaked in some way? We've seen parts in True Crime from Caden Pressey to Jack Newton. Caden Pressey's police interview being leaked, that's it. As for all the other partygoers that have cooperated with police supposedly and done interviews, have we seen or heard from them? No. So how would we be able to check for discrepancies, inconsistencies, anything that would show a sign of not being innocent, but being guilty? All I could possibly say or come to a conclusion of myself is maybe the general public that like to have an answer for everything would say, well, Caden was the one that was public and put himself out there, and no one else did. So because no one else did what Caden did, that makes other people guilty then. Oh no. Oh no. People do have preferences. Some people may like to shout out about a problem or a situation and get change that way. Other people may like to work from the shadows to serve the light, to get changes done, but done quietly without making a loud noise. Everybody has different ways. Some person may break into a house to steal items. Another person may, silently creep in through a window to steal items. Like even with serial killers, not all serial killers are the same way. Some are reckless and others are very smart and plan it out perfectly and avoid detection. So, based on the different styles, patterns, and different behavioural traits, not everyone is going to act the same way. Yet the general public have that expectation for people to act all the same way in order to be truly innocent and grouped together. And when some don't, but one does, that one stands out as the golden goose, whatever you want to call it, and praised and worshipped, which creates a very deep parasocial, unhealthy obsession and blurs the lines between the case and reality. It's not good. It's very reckless, that. Excusing of behaviour, being lenient. And the example would be for Caden would be, well, trauma, impact, troubles, memory loss, stress. Right. It sounds to me that you're calling Caden Pressey a victim, which would be valid. However, you're the same people to have also said that Noah is the only victim. You contradicted yourself there, haven't you? And if you tried wiggling your way out of that, because I know humans love to wiggle their way out of things and always have the last word, I know how humans work, well then, what else would it be? Well, Caden's a victim and Caden struggled and Caden saw Noah firsthand and it's had an impact, right? So what about Mikey Lair dealing with PTSD previous in the past and then seeing Noah, which could have been a re-trigger? Does Mikey have a say? Is it valid for him to struggle? What about Brylan Sweat? What about Isaac Rojas? The same people that were with Caden supposedly at the time of the highway. They would have been impacted as well, right? No? Oh, it's only Caden Pressey? Only one victim, but Caden's a second? Contradict yourself? And also excuse others? Yeah, it's not quite adding up, is it? And as well, the mindset of being, well, innocent people don't act that way if it means making discrepancies and not being truthful and making mistakes. But Caden's an exception because of trauma and impact. So basically saying all the other partygoers just haven't been affected, making it all invalid. Any struggles, Any worries, all invalid. They're perfectly fine and okay functioning. Seems very dismissive there and reckless too. And some of these people that are very dismissive and reckless, I wonder what roles and jobs that they have in life. To have that mindset online, do they apply that same behavior in real life in person? Likely not. But it's that worrying certainty, that reality that it's deep down with them. They choose when to show it and when not. So in person, when communication's supposed to be better, connection's supposed to be better, is it really? You're not seeing people for who they really are until it's too late behind closed doors. What good does that do? It only causes more damage long term. Now, tying on with the idea of Noah is the only victim. In regard to the case, Noah is the only victim. But once the investigation opened up, that's when there were multiple victims through harassment, through if there was stalking, any threats, acts of vigilantism, false claims made online, slanderous moments, and so much more. That can range from people within the case, it can range from people within the community, members of the general public, family of family, friends of Noah, and party goers. Comes in different shapes and sizes. That's just what happens within the true crime community. All different types of people get dragged in. Even with previous cases, some people that weren't even at the party or at a scene or in the moment were dragged in just because they're a friend or associate of that said victim or of another party goer or friend. They get dragged into drama, they get muddied in the water, and all hell breaks loose. Look at JJ Bumpaz, how he got dragged in, wasn't even at the party, yet people made a big deal about it. Look at the mess that caused. So, in regard to people being victims, and it doesn't have to mean victim on the same length of death, it can just be a victim of poor treatment. That can be the case. Many different areas, physically as well, in life, online, digitally, any harassment, any bullying and all that, providing it's not false, it's genuine claims and observations more so. So, to put it simple, case, one victim, because the case is a case study and it's on Noah. Investigation, when it becomes open-ended, looking at the different leads, looking at the different people, those that are involved, those that are dragged in. In the case, digitally online as well, it's where victims can form, not false, but being on the receiving end of bad outcomes and treatment. Simple as. It's not that hard. Why do humans not accept that? Because if they have an emotional connection to Noah, they think or believe that what Noah went through, as in what other people experience in the case community, like being a victim of harassment, being a victim of some false claims and words, all of that, as bad as that is, it doesn't compare to what Noah went through. So some in the community will see it as an insult if you tried comparing or relating to Noah. But this is the thing, there's no competition, there's no relating. It's individual experiences, individual encounters unique to oneself, and it's valid. When you start invalidating what people have gone through, especially when it gets dark and deep and there's physical or psychological maltreatment, you could be arguing bordering onto the mindset of a domestic situation, an abusive type of mindset, in allowing it or dismissing it, invalidating certain things. It's a very dangerous game to play, that. It's definitely not a good look. So that's what we might be seeing within this case and community. Humans with an abusive-like mindset in how they downplay, how they manipulate, how they change the narrative, how they twist and bend things, but also how they flip the card and flip the tables at times and always have a final word to say. It's very interesting in a way. Now, beside that, adding on, their lies caused all of this. Caused all of what exactly? The case being unresolved? But supposedly they've cooperated with police in the background. Or maybe that's just what they say because they want to make you think that way. But, you got lies, but then you've also got discrepancies and mistakes. How do we actually know it's truly a lie? Or could it just be a mistake? If Cade and Pressy can make mistakes, but they're big enough, not as a lie, not done with intent, but still, mistakes happen, no one's perfect, then why can't that be applied to the partygoers then? It is possible. But in the mindset of some humans, when they've made their mind up, they won't see it that way. They won't consider it that way, just like with the fake accounts. It's set in stone at some point, and it's hard to budge. It's hard to convince them to look at it from a different perspective. That's when it becomes problematic, like reaching a brick wall, talking to a dead end. There's no way around it. So you got to become aware and alert of that when it does get to that point. And the line about if only they told the truth from the start. I mean, it's a fair point what Robbie says. It seems like reaching such a strong, confident conclusion that whilst partygoers have said what they've said, done what they've done behind closed doors and behind the scenes and with police, and it's not led to an outcome or a true resolve of no, then it must mean that they've not told the police completely everything, or they're not told the complete truth. But if they actually did say what the reality was, the case would have been solved by now. But how do we actually know that? Besides whether, partygoers have truly communicated and cooperated with police, absolutely. Beside that aspect, the concept of just communication and saying what they think or what they believe or what they know. It just seems like the general public have made their minds up from the beginning or early on, knowing what the partygoers know, in which the partygoers have not actually told the general public about. You see, it's a bit of a paradox there, and it's also a bit of a contradiction. If some of the general public believe that partygoers haven't been honest and haven't cooperated truly with police, and that's why the case is the way it is right now, and they've lied instead, well, then it seems like the general public know what the actual truth is. And if the actual truth was said to begin with, the case would be solved, because it would mean that there was murder, there was foul play, and those that lied are responsible. That's what the general public will be thinking in order to come up with such a line like that in the first place. But how would the general public know of all of that if the police don't, if the victim's family doesn't, if the actual perpetrators never revealed it public? How on earth can the general public know? Mind reading? Are they, done some kind of weird tapping into someone's conscious mind and gathering all the information? You've been using spirit boxes, even though a person's not dead, to try and connect all the dots together? Oh no, that makes no sense at all. But then again, would it be a surprise? When you're dealing with problematic humans don't always make much sense. They may not even make much sense of themselves at times. And I think that's a good time to transition on to some of the points upon reflection of the wild mentions. So Carolyn, had mentioned that when watching the video about Caleb Newton, the breaking news upon joining that Presgrove group project, that's really the only thing that I got out of the video, and that's the reason why I stopped watching Warlike Raph's videos. Right, so Carolyn's decision to stop watching my videos was because what they gathered from my video is all they got out of it, in which when I do my videos, I tend to focus on one or two things and go into depth with it. So it is what it says on the tin. Carolyn came to that same conclusion, so would have been satisfied with what she gathered from the video and what the video was about completely, and for that reason she decided to stop watching. That's really, really intelligent. Really, really clever. I'm actually really, really impressed. Really impressed at such levels of incompetence. What's going on, Carolyn? What's happening? Now, the video of Caleb at the time was highlighting he's joined the page. What does that mean? A guilty mind, planning the defense, observing, tracking for the sake of court, for the sake of using it against them, researching as a spy, but in the open public, or more so as an act of defiance, resilience, to say, I'm joining loud and proud in public and I've got nothing to hide. Different ways of looking at it. It came to some other conclusions afterwards by people watching who said, well, you can join pages or groups, but you can actually be invited without choice or consent or something, which is a little bit problematic. Some people could actually exploit that in a way to make it seem like, hey, this person's joined, but that's only because we invited them or got them over. Does Caleb even know he's a part of that group? Who knows? But it was a discussion. It was breaking news, considering not much else has happened. It was new activity, and you could look at it in many different ways. Considering a lot of humans like to obsess about Caleb and obsess about his involvement, you would think someone like him joining in public when no one else has, as proof I showed in my video, it stands out more, this one person. And Carolyn was like, that's pretty much what I got from the video. I've stopped watching. You stopped watching because you got what you wanted from the video and learned properly. It's not making much sense, Carolyn. I think you might need some psychological evaluation based on that mentality. And then adding on by saying, Raf's titles and videos are so deceiving. He's a joke. Where do we start? Titles are deceiving. How can a title be deceiving when what you got from that video is exactly what the video was about? That's not deceiving, is it? You've contradicted yourself there. Well done. Well done, Carolyn. As for other videos and titles, are they deceiving or misleading? No. It's a subjective point because in my titles I add question marks, questions, discussions. It shows. My language and wording is done carefully, and even the descriptions are as well. If I can't fit everything in the YouTube title because there is a character limit, I will add it in the comment section or the description by adding on with context. If Carolyn and others can't be bothered to check and reread, that's their problem. And if humans like that come to the conclusion and nature of my videos and titles are deceiving, that's just subjective. It's almost a worthless, invalid throwaway point because they've not bothered to do the research themselves to look at the bigger picture, as in what the reality is. Jumping to conclusions without consideration in an ignorant fashion, which does reinforce how worthless the situation is and what comes out their mouth besides oxygen. Okay? So, what else do we have? We've got Judy. Not Judge Judy, but just a person called Judy. Said he goes back and forth and wants to know where everyone has gone, those that had paid for subscriptions on his channel and so on. If we're talking about subscriptions as in subscribers subscribing to a YouTube channel, you do realise, Judy, it's free of charge. You click the subscribe button. There's no payments, there's no transactions, there's absolutely nothing. 2 million people could subscribe to me tomorrow. I gain absolutely nothing from it. And all of the YouTubers out there that have subscribers or people subscribe and click the button, it does nothing for them. That's why a lot of the bigger YouTube channels say, subscribe, it's free, you don't have to pay anything. It's just basically clicking a button so you're notified of when videos are released. That's it. That's it. It's not that deep. If you're talking about membership subscription, that's completely different and that's by choice. But I believe Judy is more so referring to subscribers, the masses of people that used to watch but no longer. And Raf is trying to figure out what's going on. So by supposedly going back and forth with the different opinions and the theories of murder, foul play, accident or not, light, dark, trying to fumble all about in order to try and gain back favour. Clearly, Judy has failed to understand the core concept of multiple perspectives and a holistic vision and outlook on something, as in it's not just one-sided, it's not just set in stone, and it doesn't just mean a linear pathway. Just like with humans and troubles and struggles, there isn't always a linear pathway in recovery or healing. So when dealing with a case and working it out, there will be back and forth natures of perspectives shifting and learning with time. It's a tug of war in a sense of the more you learn, the more it may pull you in a certain direction, as in the facts and the information that you learn, and then the highs, the lows, the fakeness and the debunking, it can shift the scales. If it didn't, well then something is clearly wrong. Judy, you come across as a person that wants to remain as still as a tree and as dense as the trunk. No wonder why you think the way you do. Are those glasses made out of wood as well? Wouldn't surprise me. If you want to remain still, you can, but you can't be opening your mouth, having a go and going on and on and on and yapping and barking like you do when you're not in a position to do so and you don't know what you're actually talking about. I mean, the aspect of YouTube and claiming that subscribers is a payment thing is far from the truth. It's not true whatsoever. You don't know how YouTube works, so maybe you should stay in your lane, keep your mouth closed and just focus on what you're good at. Whatever that is. You're going to be able to do that for me? Good. Good. So, last thing that was mentioned by Judy was, well, they change sides. Oh no. My video was short, about 30 seconds long, and it was just about anomalies, checking for things that don't make sense in the case, more so the party, the build-up to Noah's death. That's it. Judy's response was, they change sides, depending on who subscribes. Kind of tying in with that mentality of what she mentioned earlier about me, but now she's referring to they, as in me, they. So Judy is implying that there is more than one ref. Is Judy trying to imply multiple personalities or something? An alter ego? There's a clone of Warlike Ref, the Clone Wars, the Ref Wars? What's going on here? Or maybe Judy is disassociating from the sheer weight of incompetence that she carries on her shoulders, and even she is embarrassed by it. I wouldn't be surprised. I would be too if I was her. Reality is changing sides depending on who subscribes. I mean, you need to understand, Judy, that because the lack of popularity in this case now, because a lot of humans have given up or got bored and moved on. Statistically, it's proven, such as with YouTube's side. And that's normally a big place for awareness, right? Yeah. I mean, you can look yourself, or the statistics can show, not just with me, but across all boards, when anyone covers the case, with the exception of a big YouTube channel with a big audience already, that's separate. But when it comes to sides and perspectives, looking at it holistically, back and forth to, cover loose ends, catch up on things, that's very normal. Yes, you can keep moving forwards, but you can always move backwards just to catch up and see things from different angles. There's no harm in that. Those that don't may lack that depth and understanding. And in regard to the whole subscriber count, not many people are subscribing anymore because all the people that do watch are already subscribed or already present. Because the case isn't that popular anymore and isn't that new or fresh, not many new people are coming on in now from the YouTube side, right? And that's just across all boards. So not many new people are coming in because the case is more of a niche, more of a gated community, just like the other smaller cases out there. That's a fact. I've seen it. I've been there, done it before. If you're a YouTuber and you want to gain subscribers, you move from one case to another and you keep moving from one case to another. But I don't do that, so my growth is much slower. And sometimes there's no growth whatsoever. So if there's no growth, you can't attach the claim of subscriber count going up determines which direction he goes in, or he considers which direction to go in first to gain a higher subscriber account. Invalid, because there's not much growth. The people that are present, and that's it. And the ones that are departed, they've departed. The viewers that no longer watch my channel or have disappeared into thin air, whoever, whatever, I don't know. I've not been told. I've not received closure. I don't know. Okay. So to associate one thing with another and come to the conclusion of it's down to subscriber count when it's an invalid point, it just makes everything that's been said before just worthless. just like the presence of some humans in his life. That's it. When referring back to what Karen said earlier, Carolyn, about Ref, he's a joke. I mean, interesting situation there. When it comes to being a joke, I didn't think that by making videos at times where people reached out to me privately and said, because they're going through dark times or they've been hospitalized and needed a good distraction and needed help to get through it, I didn't associate that with being a joke. Or times in the past where people reached out privately and said that your videos, Raf, stopped them from removing themselves from this world and life altogether. My videos have saved lives. I wouldn't say that's a joke, but maybe what Carolyn is indirectly suggesting is that by saving lives and helping people through dark times, it makes them a joke. If earlier we have seen vaguely abusive level behavior, when it comes to Carolyn and her beliefs and outcomes and outlooks in other areas and topics, what does that say about them? The aspect of humans removing themselves from this earth and life, they think that's a joke as well? Very interesting indeed. I think it's now time. And I'm actually going to take my time, first of all. I'm going to take a drink of water. Anyone else can if they would like to. Just make sure the brightness is on. Make it bright once again. Because we need to get to a bit of a conclusion now, don't we? And you might be wondering, what is that conclusion exactly? Well, let me just derobe myself for a second. Make sure the top is high enough. Don't want to expose too much skin, or what was that person's name? Stevie Gaines will say, Warlike Ref is creating a thirst trap. Over-sexualized behavior and an outlook towards me. That says more about them than it does about me. Considering that people had either sexualized or pounced on a dead person, in this case Noah. You remember the earlier days. What is really going on? You know what the reality is? Day by day, second by second, my depth is getting dangerously deep and beyond. What does that actually mean? Well, I'll explain that shortly. But first of all, what we need to come to the conclusion of is the customer isn't always right. And that can be politically incorrect there. The customer as in the viewer, the consumer from wherever. They believe that they have the right and the say and action and stuff. But if they jump ahead, if they make false claims, they make assumptions, they rush emotionally without critical thinking, kind of invalidates the situation and it shows they may not have a leg to stand on or they may not know what they're really saying or doing. When it comes to videos, besides side taking and all of that, looking at critical videos that people would normally have a wet dream over because it's supporting their narrative, but they choose not to anymore because of their mind being set in stone that the moment that Raf decided to look at it from a different perspective, all respect was lost, all trust was lost, and no matter what he does next, there's no coming back from it. There's no redemption. That's the mindset of humans. The moment you become balanced is the moment people lose respect for you and turn their backs on you and stop consuming because they hate the idea of a different narrative or a perspective or a theory being introduced because it threatens them because of their own insecurities and deep-rooted unresolved troubles within. I can see humans and I can sense problems. I may not always know exactly, but given time and with gut feeling, I do tend to be correct in a way. There have been times in life outside of cases, outside of true crime, outside of YouTube, where I've assumed something within another person. And most of the time, I have been absolutely accurate and correct, but there have been moments where I've been completely wrong about someone. And I'm glad, because it's needed for that balance, just like with agreements and disagreements, that balance. If you're always right, not only is it boring, but it's a very isolating place, especially if you know too much about things and you're always right. So when you're proven wrong, because your original outlook is negative, when proven wrong, it means there was a positive that came from it. And I've experienced that. Not a lot, but it's happened here and there. Not long ago, but it's happened, right? So that's good. But when it comes to cases and true crime, I will lock in more. The problem with me outside of cases and YouTube, with being an overthinker, and possibly tying in with other stuff as well, it can lead to thinking worst case scenarios, especially when there's a lack of closure, when people haven't explained themselves and you're expected to guess and think of what's going on inside someone's mind or what's happening in a situation, why there feels like there's a disconnect, whatever it could be. So by playing the guessing game and thinking worst case scenarios and being an overthinker, it's not exactly ideal, but there is the role of the other person to try and do their part as well. And if they're not doing their part, it just leads to thinking worst case scenarios about them, about what might be going on. And in the end, when there is a level of closure and I'm proven wrong, because I am not perfect, even though some people at times have said I'm perfect, I do really appreciate that. Shout out to anyone that has said that to me. I'm not. And when proven wrong, it's been for the right reasons and it's led to a level of relief. But the thing what I picked up on, my first gut feeling was of what they eventually told me. So if I trusted that to begin with, would have been on the same level, wavelength, and any excess energy wouldn't have been wasted. But at times my gut feeling had been wrong further back in the past. So I went against my gut feeling. When it comes to YouTube, true crime, I lock in. But outside of all of that, when you can be a bit more loose and casual just in general in life, that's when more mistakes can be made. That's when I can make mistakes. So if I make mistakes, it's outside of cases and true crime and mysteries for most part of it, right? Not always, but for most part of it. So with adapting and picking up on the gut feeling and applying it more now and sticking with it, it stabilizes everything, or stabilizes more things than before. So if I'm in a situation now where there's a lack of closure, a lack of answers, a deathly silence, I consider the natural possibilities, the basic situation, which could involve emotional thinking, depending on the circumstance, but in a controlled way with critical thinking of what you already know about the past, about patterns and trends, making the mistakes because of the lack of closure, getting some answers, then applying that for the future. If anything else goes wrong, if history repeats itself, if there's any distance or disconnect, I can remind myself, well, likely what's happened is a repeat of what's previously occurred, but it's got worse now and there wasn't a time of healing in between. So things got messy, complex, and it's not to do with me. I'm not the problem. It's an internal battle with whatever's going on in a different location, environment. When it comes to true crime, there is a lot more at hand than just personal connections. With true crime, there's an actual case going on. And if you mess up, you could get punished for it. If you act a certain way, someone else could get punished or harmed in the process. So it's more serious situation. It's the thing with true crime and true crime communities. It doesn't have to be a job. You don't have to be a creator. You don't have to be an influencer. As long as you're present in the moment and in that group or case, You can be a danger to others. People can be a danger to you. You can hurt others, you can damage others, but so can other people do that to you, and there can be consequences all over the place. So role or job doesn't matter, but the presence of an individual does. Being open to good and bad and vice versa, it can happen. So when linking back to thoughts driven by feelings, overly emotional behavior, passionate about the case but beyond too much, too close to know it in some ways that they can't look beyond other thoughts and feelings, it gets set in stone. If they see anyone that thinks different, that forms a different pathway, they're seen as an enemy, an opposition, part of the problem, just because they want to look at it in a different perspective, just because they've got a genuine reason to do so or a genuine belief and a theory. They don't cause trouble, they don't attack, they just think different. And for thinking different, they're punished for it by people that have their thoughts and ways set in stone and they won't consider any other pathway. That's tunnel vision behavior. That's dangerous, it's reckless, it's unhealthy for them, it's unhealthy towards others. Creates a toxic environment, simple as. And the reason why it becomes problematic, because a person that has their thoughts or feelings set in stone, they deny themselves of the chance of learning too. Because they can't set their differences aside with a person, when they see another video which could be of their interest, they can't look beyond the person to see the video, they just see the person and associate the video with that person and think, I'm not watching it, I'm not consuming it. Yeah, I don't trust it, that's it. Trust issues, personal issues, likely unresolved troubles within, internally. We know mental framework and mind, there is a malfunction going on, and it's what prevents them from being able to move forwards, think forwards, and look beyond. Yeah, sometimes you got to work with the devil in a case to get answers. Dylan Round's case, victim's family had to work alongside the killer for a plea deal just for the sake of getting the location of where Dylan's body was buried. They didn't want to, but they had to. With that mindset and strength and resilience, despite dealing with the negativity, general public, some of them, they can't do that, can they? I've covered cases where I've had to deal with cretins and problematic people, disease-ridden humans and their attitudes. I put up with it. I, at one point in the Dylan Rouse case, for nearly 2 years, if not more, had to put up with a lot of people and noise when I was thinking a certain way and I was called out and attacked, and in the end I was right about it. I had to bite my tongue for over 2+ years and keep on going despite how I was treated. I can do that again, and I'm doing it right now, and so on and so on and so on. Don't see other people doing that, do you? Sometimes you got to work with the devil. Now, in my case, working with the devil doesn't quite make sense when I saw the devil when I was younger in the woodland, and even the devil didn't get close, it backed off and carried away. That makes me think. Now, with people's ways being set in stone and humans being problematic, this is what I was saying when it comes to the depth, when it comes to picking up on humans and what I see within them. It's not always darkness. If I see problematic, bad people, what can I do about it? I've offered advice, I've tried perspective, and it's been denied or thrown back in my face. Not much I can do about that. There will be other people out there, maybe watching or who once watched my videos, who may be in the shadows, and they may be broken or they may feel broken, and their brokenness leaks out in cases like this. They don't mean it, but they're consumed by something from the past. Now, the thing is with me that separates me from most humans is I can look beyond a broken person and still see the light within them and their potential, right? Of course, it depends the circumstance and who it is and connection-based, because out of conflict of interest, out of professionalism, and just in general, because you're not going to treat everyone the same way. There is a hierarchical system in who you're closer to and who you're further away from. physically and emotionally. But reality is that just because someone feels broken or thinks there's no hope or it's a mess, I can still see through that and I can work alongside that darkness. I don't think humans, not all, but I think there's portions of humans that don't actually understand the absolute depth that I can go to, psychologically speaking. You see my videos, you see those psychological videos in recent time, that can be through experience, common sense, and consideration, right? Those videos are just the tip of the iceberg, as in the depth of what I can think and pick up on. A lot of humans can say, you don't know what it's like, you've not experienced it, you don't know. I think if you look deep enough, you'll know it very well that it's under control, right? It's very interesting the way I say it. I mean, like, look at interactional synchroncy with some humans where I was using words in the case and other people started reusing my words and lines. What's going on there? Now, some people may have complained and whined and mirrored me in like a bit of an obsessive way. Do I have a problem with people obsessing over me? If they're good people, it doesn't bother me. I do appreciate it. If it's bad people, though, problematic, toxic people who are causing pain, suffering, and complaints and false claims, I don't appreciate that. I wonder how many people do obsess about me and why and in what way exactly. Because I'm mysterious? Because of the darkness? Because of the... what? People want me to be dominant? What's really going on? Because I get too close to the camera. For some, it's too close for comfort, but deep down they actually like it, despite, they hate it, but secretly like it. What's going on? I can think of certain reasons and factors, with humans, that push-pull dynamic. But with some people out there, push-pull and self-doubt and whatever's going on with noise inside, sometimes there needs to be a bit of a shake-up and realise I'm still here. I'm still standing, right? My stamina, despite what I've been on the receiving end of, is not dead. The coverage is not dead. Seeing the potential and light in someone, despite all the other mess, it's not dead. I've not given up. And like in general, this is just a general perspective that I have under certain circumstances with certain people. I just don't give up on them, right? Sometimes people may give up on themselves, but I haven't with them. That's why my stamina is the way it is. That's why I'm still here covering this case. I'm still here covering this case even at a time of in the past when things got messy, but there was, acknowledgement and support on the channel, and there was even blessings from, one of my #1 fans. Shout out to them. You know who you are. And that's why I'm still here covering the case, despite the darkness. Okay? So, with that all being said, we'll see what happens next. There are some other videos, map analysis, and theories to consider. Be on the lookout for it. Appreciate those that did watch, and of course those in the background. Hope you liked the video. Be sure to hit the thumbs up, share the video, hit the hype button down below so more people get to see it, these observations, and the documentation of how the behaviour has shifted in the casing community. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night for now.